Today's video is directed at drivers that get the jitters at race weekends. Hello race drivers, this is Enzo with the Race Driver Coach Show. An episode again is dedicated to the mental part of your performance, because you know that I believe that's the most important part. It's where the knowledge is, it's where your learned skills are, your experience, the ability to turn your knowledge into reality, into actions that are going to get you the results that you want. So we need to make sure, or you need to make sure, that you spend most of your time on the mental aspect, whether it is knowledge, skills, emotional control, performing on demand, having the right kind of mental matrix that allows you to succeed and get the best from yourself, right? This is a lifelong dedicated discipline or area that you must master or attempt to master so you can actually get the results you want. Now, people view race drivers as being these warriors that walk the land, that are able to perform at their best in dangerous positions. And the more intense it is, the more they switch on. But in reality, between you and me, I'd say 90% of drivers are actually not that way. They're not coded in a way that has the warrior mindset. They're not coded in a way that allows them to basically drive as they want to at particular times. So you'll see them, a lot of them, right? In practice, in testing, they can get to their best, whatever that is. It's really irrelevant. They can perform at their best, and they're working on things. They've got the right kind of mindset that allows them to progress throughout the day. But then it comes to race weekend, and it comes to the qualifying session. All of a sudden, the driver seems to lose their mind, a lot of them. They get nervous before because they're worried about certain things that might happen in qualifying, which we'll talk about in a moment. And all of a sudden, they tense up. They start to overdrive, underdrive, they're out of sync, they don't feel in the rhythm anymore. And then in the races, it can be exactly the same. They can get overly nervous before going into the race, sat there on the pre-grid, shaking, and they're not in tune with what's coming up. This is great news, by the way, that most drivers struggle, because that's an opportunity for you to take advantage, for you to have even more motivation to master this side of your performance, the mental aspect. And to spend time on that, more time than pretty much anything else, to be fair. It goes hand in hand with your fitness, but I'd say this is way more important than your fitness, because your mind can push you through certain pain barriers. So even if you're not fit enough, it's the mental aspect that will take you through. So it's more important than that. It's probably on par with the actual driving skills itself. So you get the skills, but you need to access them, right? So if you understand that most drivers are not really optimal in that area, then this is an opportunity. This is your chance to pounce. This is your chance to do something that most people are not doing. So this is just my way of saying, take this seriously. Really go into mental training. Understand what it is about your game, your mental game, that you need to improve, and focus on it. Work on it. Every single test, every single race, which we'll kind of get onto in a moment. Now let's get back to the theme of this video being about the mental bubble that I want you to create. Now this video was inspired by Caleb, who I watched race in Toyota Racing Series over winter or summer if you're in New Zealand. And he just won a race, and this was his interview. Listen to what he says.
Are you surprised how strong the car has been?
Look, this weekend I've had the help from Barry, who a lot of people know, and he's a wonderful mentor, and you know he's put me in this bubble of just me, him, and the engineer all weekend. And you know, like, people ask me how testing went, and to be fair, I don't know how anybody else is going, because I'm just having fun, mate. I'm getting out there, doing some laps, and enjoying it.
I thought this was fantastic, and a good insight to what I teach and what I really try and get drivers to do is to be in their own mental bubble. Also, to enjoy what they're actually doing. And you can see he's having a blast of a time, right? And as a consequence, that allowed him to perform at a certain level at his best, and he won the race. That's not a coincidence. If he'd gone into that race not in his own bubble, focusing on everybody else, letting everybody else's pace sort of mentally destroy him and affect his self-belief and his confidence, and he wasn't really enjoying it because he was tense, he was looking in the mirror, do you think he would have won? No, he wouldn't have been at his best. This, in essence, is what I want to help you do today, or at least start that journey, at least shine some light on it, so you can go to race weekends and also have this kind of attitude. Now, when it comes to the bubble that we speak about, that's really where your focus goes. So if you're focusing on just what you can control, your immediate area, that can be when you're in the car, so you're just focusing on what to do in that corner. That could be in the debrief room when you're just focused on extracting all you can from that last session. Whatever it is, you stay in that focus bubble, just with 1, 2, 3 people that are helping you. That's your team. That's all you care about. That gives you so much lasered focus on stuff that you can control, on forward movement in terms of progress, on learnings, that you will calm the mind down, give it something to really get its teeth into, and you'll be able to perform. Now that bubble is pretty much paramount when it comes to you, because you can only focus on so much at a certain time, right? Now, if you remember that old video that I did where it showed you the brain and how much you really want to have all your focus forward, right? I mean, that's really idealistic, to be fair. You know, you've got all the attention going forward 100%, a bit unrealistic, but to be fair, that's the goal. You can't always achieve the goal, but all I want to do is be completely in the moment and focused on what's coming up next, right? That's the optimal state. That's in the zone, in the flow. The problem is we have these leaks. We have this energy through our focus sapped from the brain. So the things that we're trying to focus on, the energy is getting stolen. The focus is getting stolen. So sometimes the driver's only like 30%, thinking about 30% of their focus, should I say, is on what's coming up. And the rest is like, who's in my mirror? So-and-so's over there. What's my dad thinking? All these things come in and they just steal the focus. And that is why I want to talk about the bubble, because this bubble can be like a shield. It can be impenetrable. It can be like armor if you want it to be, if you have the focus that keeps you there. However, this bubble can easily be popped if you start to focus outward. If you start to worry, if you start to tap into the kind of fears that humans have, like, am I enough? Am I quick enough? Or I'm at the part of the grid where I don't feel that secure because it's at the front. I don't feel like I belong here. Everyone's so fast. And you're stacking up the reasons why that kill your confidence, or why you're not good enough. What's so-and-so going to think if I get beat? You start to become nervous in a way where you're protecting your position. You don't want to lose. You're becoming nervous because you don't want to lose, rather than becoming nervous because you want to win. There's a big difference. So this bubble that I talk about, I want you to create it. Not only with the people that you have around with you, your engineer, you or your mechanic, you or your coach and your mechanic, whatever it is, the people that are there with you are just focusing on you, and you're just focusing on your own thing. And you're out there with one major goal. Is just to let loose, to be you, to be able to drive in the rhythm and to actually enjoy it. So 2 things, for you to be focused and you to enjoy it, because that's how you're going to get the best out of yourself. You've got to remember why you race in the first place. It's really important. Why do I race? What do I love about it? You know what? Just that question, just asking that question when you're nervous can calm the brain down. Because anxiety is more worrying about what might happen, things that are out of your control, and having your reputation affected by something that might happen, right? And it's too much responsibility, so it will get anxious. But if you're sat in the car just before you're going out and you start to remind yourself of the things you are grateful for, you start to remind yourself about all the great things about being a driver. I love the sound of this engine. I love this car. I love being on the edge. I love racing. You know what? We're going into a race. I can't wait. There's nothing in this world stopping you seeing things that way as you go out on track. And you're kind of like a kid. You can remember that motocross rider, that little kid who looks like he's ready to go. He's on the start line and he can't keep still. He's revving the engine. He's looking like, let's go, let's go, let's go. That's okay. That's a bit too intense for some people, for a lot of people, because then you might fire off at the first corner. But still, that kind of bouncy, I'm enjoying this, I really can't wait. That's what I want you to be like. Much more prefer that, so you're kind of overdoing it a little bit, than being the kind of person who feels like they're on defense. Who feels like they're protecting, like I say, and you're worrying about things, and all of a sudden that's tapping into the fears, the biggest fears that humans have. That's never going to help you win. You've got to be out there. You've got to be able to express yourself, which Bruce Lee said, right?
Ultimately, martial art means honestly expressing yourself. To express oneself honestly, not lying to oneself. And to express myself honestly, not that, my friend, is very hard to do. And you have to train. If I want to punch, I'm gonna do it, man, and I'm gonna do it, you see. I mean, you gotta put the whole hip into it and snap it and get all your energy in there and make this into a weapon.
And all he means by that is get out of your own way. Take these thoughts that are clouding and blurring the vision that you're having about just going, these negative thoughts that they take you, get out your own way and just go. Be you out there. Express yourself. Feel good. And there's someone who really does this well, is Travis Pastrana. You see him in this rally car now. He's just bouncing. He's loving it. Okay, a lot of people will say that's way too much emotion. But again, this is him in an element, or in an environment, that he's absolutely reveling in. And he may get a bit too flamboyant and ask too much of the car, of course. But I prefer that than someone who's tense. So if you're kind of in this situation where you do get nervous, just understand what you're stacking, what thoughts, where the focus is going, because that's what's creating the emotions. So first of all, you've got to be aware. And what I want you to do, this is a bit like you becoming a true expert in your craft, but also a true expert in you. You've got to understand how you tick. What are your natural tendencies? Where does your mind go? What's your automatic thought process when you're getting into the car, or in the cart, or on the bike? Because you've got a lot of emotional triggers to that car, bike, boat, whatever you're racing. As soon as you get in, you feel the seat around you, or you're on the seat, there's a physiological mental trigger of when you're there, in situ, because over the years you've kind of associated different emotions to that time. You can have very automated responses to fear or worry. We've got to know what they are. So I want you, just like you do with a food diary when you're trying to lose weight, I want you to do a personal performance diary. So after you do a session, you drive your heart out, you do the best you can, you come in and you go for a debrief with your engineer or mechanic or whatever. But then I want you just to take 5 minutes to have your own debrief. So you write down, okay, 1 or 2 points in these areas, by the way, and this is kind of an example. I've just scribbled it out. I do it for my drivers now to get them to do their performance journal. So you have like 1 or 2 things in different areas. Driving. What's the one thing I did really well, or what's the one thing I want to improve? So something you want to repeat next time, or something like, right, I've got to sort this braking out in the next session. Fine. Very clear. You know what it is. Then what about the vehicle itself, the car? Is there something that you want to improve on it? Is there some kind of comment that you want to remember? So you're thinking to yourself, okay, we changed the roll bar, it worked, slow speed is really good now, I've got good rotation, I'm going to remember that, I'm just going to write it down. Or can we just check that the gear's okay because it misshifted a couple of times down the straight. So that's kind of like your record of what happened over that session. Then we go into the mental, and you can describe who you were in that session. I started the session, I was really confident, but then I had a car catching me up in the mirror. I started to focus too much on it, started to stress, then I was out braking myself, then I was under driving before you know it, the car was passed. It was completely mental. And this is why I thought. I thought, who is that? They're going to think I'm good enough. Now my dad's watching, he's going to think I'm not, he's going to tell me off. Wow, messy, nowhere near what you need to be, but it's just an observation. Remember, this diary, this journal, this performance journal is just you saying, this is how I was mentally in that session. And you might have been on fire, completely exactly how I want. How did you do that? Well, I was just looking at the corner one at a time. I went out with one objective, to brake later, deeper, and to rotate the car. That's all I went out there with. Interesting. There is a clue for how you get to your best. You go out there with a smile on your face, maybe, looking forward to the session with one objective driving wise, to give you your mind something to focus on, something very clear and obvious that calms everything down. That's how I get the best out of myself. You only learn this by really being conscious and having a journal and writing it down. Then session 2, if you capitulate mentally, write it down. Fascinating. Interesting how I did that. Why? What was I thinking? What thoughts was I stacking? And you're looking for patterns, right? This is what I do as a coach. So I just analyze, take, absorb the information, put it away for now. Next session, put it away for now. Then look, there's a pattern. You start to underperform when you start to focus on this. You start to perform really well when you focus on this, or you do this kind of warm-up. That's all we're doing. So have this diary and have other things if you want. Like at the bottom, you can have the track, things you learn from the track. You know, it grips up at a certain time after like session 3, or I can start to play with the curbs now through a certain corner, or this corner's got a good wet line. This is all about you mastering things, becoming an expert. I don't want you to be the kind of driver that kind of just automatically goes through a day only feeling good when the results are good, feeling down when the results are not good, but there's no plan. You've got to approach this just like an engineer would. So they try something with the car, send it out, car comes back in, they do a data download, they see if that change worked, they note if it did or if it didn't, their findings. They try something else, send it out again. You have got to approach your sport, and I really recommend that you do in this way, like an engineer would, like you're engineering yourself. So to get back to this topic, creating the mental bubble is really focusing on things like you're an engineer, and you're an engineer in your performance, and you've got the people around you that you want, just 1, 2, 3 people that are helping you with the same goal. And mentally, you're only focusing on the things you can control. You have a kind of mindset that goes on track in a curious way. So you're going to try something, or you're going to try and duplicate something you did before. Did it work? Come back. Did it work? If not, why? If it did, why? Adjust and go. Do the same again. Rinse and repeat. Take all the information you can and go. That keeps you in a bubble. That stops you looking at everybody else. If you're getting your ass handed to you and you're 2 seconds off, that's just feedback. Okay, we're 2 seconds off. Don't need to know who. It's not important, but I can see that there is more pace out there. Teammate has just shown me this corner and this corner. He's braking deeper, or he's taking more minimum, he's getting better exits. Brilliant. Extract. If you want to be an animal, if you want to be like a warrior, you can take a kick in. That's fine, but you're going to extract what you can. Screw everything else. It's just a distraction.